Welcome and thank you for joining the American Galvy Association for Career Exploration for Tomorrow's Industry Leaders. My name is Jake Renner and I'll be your moderator here today. In my role as Youth Activities Coordinator for the American Galvy Association, I run our junior program as well as many other facets of working with seed stock producers in a registration setting. Part of my role as the American Galvy Junior Association leader is working with youth under 21 from all over the US and Canada. We do have a 10-member board comprised of college students aging from 16 to 21. So I do kind of serve as their bumper pad as they navigate their role as leaders within our association in the industry. When I'm not working with them, I also facilitate, distribute, and help navigate the scholarship programs that we have available, as well as building partnership with other industry leaders like those that we have joining us today on the webinar. Agriculture is teaming with opportunity for our youth and events like this webinar and many organizations like the American Galvy Junior Association, and help to shed light on those opportunities by helping youth to think about agriculture as the vast industry that it is. Today, less than 1% of Americans grow the food and fiber that fuels the agriculture employment sector. However, more than 15% of the 320 plus billion people in the US are employed by a career in agriculture. So I want to start off, I've given you a little bit of my professional background, but I'm going to save my introduction until the end. So Paxton, do you mind giving us an introduction and tell us a little bit about your role within the industry?
Yes, sir. So my name is Paxton Dahmer. I'm originally from a small town in Nevada, Missouri, so in the southwest portion of the state. Grew up there, actively involved in the livestock industry, kind of in a variety of facets. We showed livestock across the country year round. That's kind of our big thing that we did as a family, and something that I'm very grateful for. Afforded me a lot of opportunities to make connections across the industry and really see a lot of different facets of the industry in different parts of the United States. And that's been something that's been just something that I'm very, very thankful for in my background. Beyond that, very involved in 4-H, FFA, had the opportunity in FFA to serve as a state and national FFA officer. So in that capacity, got the chance to travel the state originally and then the country and learn from producers, learn from consumers, learn from industry officials, government officials, people in all different sectors of agriculture, or even people that aren't in agriculture that still touch agriculture in a variety of ways. Learn from them, learn what they do, and also shed a light on what we do in the industry. And so very grateful for the opportunities that were afforded to me there. Went to the University of Missouri, studied ag education, leadership, communications, in kind of minor in plant sciences, which led me to my current position. I work with Corteva Agriscience in the range and pasture division and live in San Angelo, Texas now. And so in sales in agriculture, still work with producers every day in a variety of ways to develop different programs into their grazing programs and sell herbicides to them and work with them as kind of a consultant in that way through a training program that we've got here at Corteva. But very grateful to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Paxton. It sounds like there's been a lot of opportunity for you within the industry. So we're happy to have you and appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Absolutely.
Jesse, how about you? Would you like to give us a bit of an insight into who you are and how you got to where you're at today?
Of course. I apologize. I have a little frog in my throat. So I am Jesse Jarvis. I grew up in Southern Idaho on my family's cow-calf operation, which is where I live today with my husband and our young children. We are the next generation of our family's operation. But when I was actively involved in our ranching operation up until I went to college. And when I went to college, I was an only child. And so there was a lot of work and there was nobody necessarily to share the load with. And so I thought, I want to go be a doctor. I don't want to be a part of agriculture. And 6 weeks into college, I realized how much I missed agriculture, how much I missed the people. And I had no idea, or I had no desire to go into medicine. So I changed from my biology degree to a business degree because I went to a liberal arts college and there were no other ag kids, let alone an ag program. So I graduated with a business degree and I went on to work as the communications director for the Idaho Cattle Association. And I spent 3 years there before moving back home to our family's operation, where I worked alongside my parents for a few years. And then in 2020, That was obviously during COVID, but my husband and I, we have always been people who have been involved in the ranching industry, the farming industry. My husband rodeoed, I rodeoed. So we have a very strong Western lifestyle and Western sports networks. And we would consistently get calls from people saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody or I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anyone who's hiring? Or, hey, I'm looking for somebody. Do you know of anyone who's looking for some work? And we kind of felt like matchmakers. We never knew the right people for the right person who was looking to fill their role. And finally, I think I got 4 calls in a single week. And I thought, holy cow, if this is a problem in American agriculture, this has got to be a problem. Like, if people are coming to me for this has to be a much larger problem. So I did a little research, and I didn't find anything online as far as what I thought there should be when it came to a job platform for our industries. And that is how Of the West was born. So I am the founder of the West, and we are a job platform that focuses specifically on jobs within agriculture and Western industries. So if you go to Of the West, you can find jobs in farming, ranching, dairy, Western sports, Western lifestyle, the equine industry, anything and everything, from positions that are internships all the way to executive level positions. There really is a spot for anybody who is looking for a job in our industry. And that is something that I am really passionate about, because if our industries are going to continue to have to feed a growing population, then our industries themselves need to continue to grow. And jobs are a very, very, very crucial part of that conversation and of that equation. So I'm excited to get to chat with you guys today about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Jesse, you've hit on a lot of really key components to the whole purpose of having this webinar and being able to provide that to current and future industry leaders, industry participants even. So excited to have you here, excited to get both of your thoughts. I'll dive just very briefly into my background. I'm really appreciating hearing your guys' stories. I think that really brings to light, again, the importance of having this webinar, because I actually did not grow up in the industry. I'm from a small town in South Central Kansas. I am a generation removed from the farm. My dad grew up raising sheep and cattle just 15 miles east of where he raised us. I am the youngest in our family. And so growing up, we got to visit my uncles are still, I have one uncle that's a cow-calf producer and one that does a lot on the feeder cattle side. So growing up, we were able to visit the farm every once in a while, but it certainly wasn't a daily occurrence. Growing up in a small rural community, agriculture was definitely something that I was aware of. Certainly grew up with a very narrow understanding of what opportunities were out there. If you would have asked me even in high school, I would have told you you either worked at a feed yard, you were a salesman, or you were a vet. Those were the only options that I thought you could do. I didn't understand that there was, quote unquote, corporate agriculture. I don't want to say that, they're the business side of things because they sit at a desk, because as we know, the business side is also outside, on horseback, wherever. So have a different bit of a background. But once I got to high school, I really started to take a deeper dive into agriculture and realize that that's where my passion lies. As you guys can probably relate, it runs in my blood, and it's something that means the absolute most to me. It's what I wake up thinking about. It's what I go to bed thinking about. And so I actually pursued a degree in animal science at Fort Hays State University in northwestern Kansas. Man, I'm getting my directions all mixed up today. Northwestern Kansas. Graduated from there, took some general, it was just an animal science degree, just very basic because I wasn't sure quite what direction I wanted to go, but also spent some of my electives in the leadership department. And then worked for a little while, started actually working as an extension agent in Kansas I was down there for about 6 years, was actually fortunate enough to be the ag and 4-H agent in the same county that my parents grew up in. So actually got to work with my uncles on some projects, which was a very unique opportunity, especially coming from not growing up, on the farm. But taking a look at, where I wanted to be in the future and what skill sets I felt like I had at the time, as well as the skill sets I wanted to build upon, decided to go back to school. And I graduated from K-State, Go Cats, with a master's degree in ag education communication in 2020. So the pandemic played a very large role in my virtual experience in grad school. A lot of Zoom meetings with producers and industry related individuals and working on that final project, but glad I got to do that. And I am now, as I'd mentioned earlier, working with the American Galvy Association as their member and youth activities coordinator. Been here just shy of 5 years. January will be 5 years for me. So excited to be here, have a huge passion for youth. As I'd mentioned, was in 4-H before. So have been working on the youth development side in their leadership role, and just kind of trying to steer them in whatever direction they want to go in and make sure they can put their best foot forward for a little over 10 years. And so just really excited to have you guys here and talk about where your guys' background plays a role in what you guys are doing now and what we can offer the next generation. So with that, gonna move on just very quickly. One of the ways that we as the American Galvy Junior Association is working to help connect youth with opportunities in agriculture is through outreach, just like this webinar. We're excited to share industry insights today from you guys within the ag industry. So what is, I guess we'll just dive right into some questions. Why is the ag industry, so let me rephrase that. Why the ag industry is one of the fastest growing and most versatile industries to build a career in. I think, giving, my background, I think it's important that we recognize that you don't have to grow up on the farm to be a valuable resource to the sector. Jesse, can you kind of shed some light on your thoughts on, opportunities that are out there and making sure that we as not just within our roles, within our professional careers, but we as an industry are making sure that we are putting it out there and making sure that those individuals like myself growing up understand that there is a place for us here. There's a place for you just because you didn't grow up on the farm. Can you shed a little bit of light on that?
Yes, amen to that. I think that that's something that is one of those a very common misconception, right? And I think in a way for good reason, right? Because agriculture and the Western industry, they're very tight-knit communities, and that's the thing that we love about them. But if you are an outsider of a tight-knit community, it can often feel like you don't belong, right? But you can get in and you can fit in, and there's nothing that says that you can't. I think that agriculture itself, we know it to be very diverse, right? Think of all the different crops that are grown and think of all the different types of breeds of cattle, right? And then you also have to think about just different regions, right? What is agriculture in the Pacific Northwest is far different than what is agriculture in the South. And so there's so many different people and things and just aspects of our industry, and the same applies in careers. So anything that you can think of or that you can dream of as far as a job, I can guarantee it that you can find it in agriculture as well. I often talk to a lot of kids and I'll ask them, are you going to, if you're from a farming or ranching operation, are you going to come back to the industry? And a lot of them will say, I don't think so. I really want to go be in finance, or I want to go be a web developer, or I want to, and they rattle off a number of different careers. And all of those careers can be found in agriculture, right? And so I think that that's one of those things, like you mentioned earlier, you don't have to work in a feed yard or work as a sales rep or work as a veterinarian or a farmer or a rancher or a professional rodeo athlete. Like those are the things that we think of, but there are so many other opportunities out there aside from those. You can be an educator, you can be a photographer, you can be in sales if you want to. The ocean really is like the biggest and brightest in our industry. And so anything that you guys can think of that you are dreaming about, you can absolutely do it if you work hard. And I think that that's the thing, that whether you are in or out of the industry, hard work, that's really like the key to life in all aspects. But if you are somebody who is outside of the industry, there is absolutely room for you in our industry. You're just going to have to work a little harder to build your network from scratch in order to meet the right people and to find the right types of opportunities. But there is absolutely nothing that says that you cannot be a part of our industry. And for those of you who are in our industry, be very welcoming and very kind to those who are outsiders. I know oftentimes we look at people and we think, man, did they really say that? Or did they really ask that? But think about think about being a kindergartner again, right? We all have questions and we all come in knowing nothing, but then when you graduate from high school, you have obviously learned a lot. And so a mean kindergarten teacher would not be a good fit, right? You have to be welcoming and kind and open for those questions. And so if you can be that avenue for someone who is interested in our lifestyle, that is something that's really, really powerful, because we need more people who care about what we do and who are interested in what we do. And you're going to win a lot more with sugar than you ever will with salt. And that is so true, even within our own industry. You have to be kind, you have to be encouraging. We want more people in our industry. And so we have to, come up alongside them and show them the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it on the head there, Jesse. I think a lot of times, regardless of our age, right? We see it with adults as well. Sometimes we hear those questions and we think, oh man, really? Come on, like open Google. But at the end of the day, we all within our industry, but I think it starts at the ground level with our youth, understanding that they're coming from a place of maybe misinformation. Maybe they haven't found the right facts, or they haven't found the trusted resource. And so when people ask those questions, I think it's important for all of us, especially at that ground zero, in high school, middle school, to take that as an opportunity to educate and be that trusted resource so that they come back. We want that reoccurrence of them coming to ask us for questions rather than running to some sites they might find on the internet that might not quite be as credible as we are, as the boots on the ground. Which brings me to my next point. We within all organizations, like I said, I've worked in the 4-H program. I'm now working at the national level with the Junior Galvy Association. Being a part of programs like that, if I would have known when I was in high school, middle school, that it was okay for me to be a part of those organizations, I think I most definitely would have. But I sat back and thought, well, I didn't grow up on the farm. They're not for me, which we know is not the case. I know that now. I wish I would have known it then. But being a part of programs like that at any level really build a skill set that I think is very unique to preparing individuals for the next chapter, whether that's college, their professional careers. Some of the skill sets, that are coming to mind: leadership, citizenship, communication, obviously a major one. I think when we can open up the door and make sure that the youth out there know that they can apply, whether they have ever touched a cow. My claim to fame statement that my junior board, I say it every time and they roll their eyes because they've heard it 1,000 times, is that I didn't touch a cow till I was 18. I'm 33. I haven't even been 15 years, and here I am leading a national level organization. I've become a trusted resource, but the communication is just absolutely necessary. And so I think it's important that we are providing those sort of skills within these junior programs, even just talking to individuals that are considering a junior program. So Paxton, I know you mentioned that you were heavily involved in 4-H and FFA at multiple levels. So how are you putting skills that you learned within those programs to use in your role right now with Corteva?
Yeah, well, Jake, I think you hit the nail on the head on a lot of ways there. I'm a big proponent of the fact that I think everybody should have to take a basic level ag class when they're in middle school, high school. At some level there, they need to have a basic level, ground level understanding of where their food comes from, how it's produced, and where everybody fits in that puzzle. Because there's a lot of elements along the value chain there, and there are many opportunities, whether it be career opportunities or just opportunities to immerse yourself and learn about those segments of the industry that could be afforded if students had that opportunity. And so I'm a big proponent of, I think everybody should go into one, but we obviously know that that's not the case. But I think beyond just that basic level understanding of the way that food is produced in the United States or even abroad, like you mentioned, I think those skills are just as essential. Those are transferable skills that, regardless of whether or not you end up in agriculture, and fingers crossed that you do, because we need you. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not you end up in agriculture, those can be employed in a variety of ways. And so, just to capitalize on those ones that you had mentioned, leadership and communications specifically. I work in sales. Communication is like at the center point of what I do. But regardless of what you do, if you're in sales, if you're in a different segment of the industry, communication is essential. Communication to be able to communicate, hey, what do I need in terms of career development? What do I need to learn? Jesse mentioned you've got to be willing to ask questions, and you need to have people that are willing to welcome you with open arms and answer those questions as well. But you have to, you don't know what you don't know until you're in there. And then once you're in there, you've got to be willing to ask the hard questions and develop that base level understanding. Like Jesse mentioned, I've involved in agriculture my whole life, but if I went to the Pacific Northwest, I would be that curious kindergartner asking questions. I don't know a thing about hops or some of those crops that are produced up there. I think they're really interesting, but it's just not what my background's in. And so even if you're in agriculture, you're going to have curiosities, you're going to have things you don't know. And if you have those communication skills, if you're willing to ask those questions and learn what you don't know, that's going to set you up for success. And so that's a very transferable skill right there. And then leadership, I think leadership, a lot of times people think of, somebody standing on stage and giving a speech or somebody leading a board meeting or things of that nature. And don't get me wrong, those are important pieces of leadership. And there are positions that is very much required. But I think in every position, a big piece of leadership that we often overlook is just taking initiative. If something's not getting done, roll up your sleeves, get it done, take initiative and learn how you can do it better. Look at, the process that you have, challenge the status quo and figure out how you can do it more efficiently. Those all tie into leadership. And those are really important, employment skills that employers need. And more importantly, agriculture needs. We need people that are willing to challenge the status quo and say, why have we done it this way? Especially, and that's really great if you're not in agriculture, because you can ask, hey, why do we do it this way? Yeah. Hey, what if we look at it this way? What if we did it this way? And can we approach it that way? If it works, fantastic. You've just cracked the code. If it doesn't, you go back to phase one, you learn something else, you challenge the status quo again, and you move forward. That's all leadership, and that's essential in a career. And then, beyond that, just the ability to develop relationships, I think is so important. Everybody needs a mentor. And I think if you have a mentor that's willing to just let you settle for average, you probably have the wrong mentor. But you've got to be able to develop those relationships in the industry and even outside of the industry. There are people that don't work in agriculture that I talk to, on a monthly basis, some of them probably on a weekly basis. And I learn just as much from them as I do my mentors that are in agriculture. But you've got to be willing to seek those people out, develop those relationships, and then help them guide you down the path. You look at people that are at the uppermost echelons of leadership in organizations in and outside agriculture, they didn't get there alone. And so I think a really important piece that we can do as young professionals is find those mentors early that are going to push you, that are going to challenge you. And then along the way, they may even introduce you to somebody else to develop a relationship with. And you've got another mentor that can push you in another aspect of your career. And so, those are all skills that I was fortunate enough to develop through youth organizations. But I also know that not everybody is involved in the same things. Not everyone has the same passions. And so I guess, the one piece of advice that I would give is, regardless of whether or not you're in 4-H, FFA, if you're involved in the Junior Gelbvieh Association, or if you're involved in, Project Lead the Way or some kind of engineering or health sciences, find those mentors, seek those people out, ask them questions, and then develop those transferable skills that hopefully you bring into agriculture. But regardless of where you go, you can bring those in and give yourself a leg up once you get into your career. I think that's really essential.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you're reading my notes on my computer, because a couple of, you hit a couple of those key words, employable skills, success. And so we all view success differently. What my goal might be for the rest of my life may not be anywhere near what your guys's are, but I think, programs like 4-H, FFA, National Breed Associations, even just community programs that you can be a part of. I think at the end of the day, what we're hoping you walk away from when you finish when you age out, and we hate to see it go, but I think it is those employable skills. It's making sure that we have prepared you for, and that you have soaked in everything that we've been able to provide to prepare you for success and whatever that journey may look like for you. Like you said, we hope they come back to agriculture. Not always the case, but that's fine. Because at the end of the day, we know that we've served our purpose. We've given them the best that we've got, and we've proudly sent them on their way. So yeah, I think you touched on a lot of really, really good points there. Moving past, being a part of a junior program, and some of them obviously they span a little bit further into college age students. Not all of them, which is fine. But I want to talk a little bit about the importance of networking. You had talked about making connections, Paxton. And here we are sitting very remote in different parts of the country, all because of a connection that we have, not just agriculture, but personal connections that we've made, professional connections that we've made. And so we are a testament to networking, aren't we? And so in that, as we look at what that looks like at the beginning stages of a young professional, internships can serve as a litmus test, if you will, for fields, companies, and even ag sectors that you don't want to work in. You don't know until you give it a try. Wouldn't it be a shame if you devoted your educational career in the pursuit of a pathway that just wasn't for you? Jesse, you talked about starting off thinking you were going to be a doctor and going into a semester or two, it sounded like, of the biology field, and then realizing, pump the brakes. This isn't maybe where I want to be, and you shifted gears. Can you guys talk a little bit about, and this will be open discussion, so feel free, whoever wants to go first, the importance of networking and internships, and putting yourself out there, trying new things. What are your guys' thoughts on internships?
I'll go first. Okay, internships. One thing that I think is the saddest thing about an internship is, for most students, let's talk about college students, right? We don't think about internships until we are juniors or seniors, because they are a requirement to graduate. And we think, oh man, I want to get out of here, so I'm going to take that internship and I'm just going to cross it off the list.
Yep.
Guys, when you are a freshman, you should start applying for internships, because you have 3 summers of summer internship opportunities to explore different careers, to work for different companies. Maybe it's the same career, and maybe you just want to explore 3 different companies that you think you might want to work for in the future. Or maybe you realize that, man, I don't like this company, or I don't like the culture, or man, I didn't think that career is as great as I thought it was going to be. This is the most the truest, best opportunity for you to really try all of the things is through an internship. And I cannot encourage you enough. Start early. Do not wait until you are in the summer of your junior and senior year and you think, man, I got to check that off the list so I can get out of here. You've got to start doing those early, because a lot of those opportunities too will then turn into a full-time opportunity after graduation. That's what happened for me. So when I was in my, unfortunately, junior and senior year of college, I got an internship at the Idaho Cattle Association. And then at the end of the summer, they said, hey, do you want to stay on full time and be our new communications director? And I said, absolutely, because at that time, it was in 2012, and we had just gotten out of the recession. And if you were a kid with a college degree, you couldn't even get a job out of college. And so here I was, I had this internship, and I got offered a full-time opportunity when a lot of kids who had already graduated couldn't find them. So the power of internships are unbelievable, but treat them as a job. That's the other thing that I think is kind of a misconception, is we think of like, oh, this is just, summer work and I'll go back to school. Treat it like an 8 to 5 full-time job. And that's, if you give it the most, you will get the most from it. And that's what's really going to set you up for success on that. Paxton, I'm sure you've got other internship thoughts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Taking ownership in it is critical. My internships looked a little bit different, given the fact that the middle of my college career was when COVID hit, and so I've done everything from an in-person internship to a completely virtual internship to a hybrid one, and those opportunities are still there. I think the industry, whether it be agriculture or even beyond agriculture, honestly, the employment landscape has changed a lot. There are a lot of different opportunities that don't look like your traditional walk into an office, sit down with someone every day type of situation. And I think, looking back at that, obviously, I found my fit in the fact that, I have to work with people in some way, shape, or form. I couldn't do a completely remote opportunity, but I learned that because I took a variety of internships and took the chance to do that. But even looking back at the completely remote internships, I gleaned a lot of skills out of those, but more importantly, I gleaned a lot of connections with those different companies. So I don't work for any of the companies that I interned with to this day, but I still have mentors and friends that work at those companies that I can still call and converse with and run things by them and look to them for guidance, both professionally and personally as well. And so I can't speak enough to the value of an internship and understanding, what goes into this career field. What do I need to be successful in there? Is it for me? Maybe it's not. Okay, let's adjust our sails. Next summer, we're going to go to a different internship program and try a different sector of the industry. And hopefully, in those three summers that you have, you can find something that really gets you excited and that you want to do for the rest of your life, or at least start the rest of your life doing. And so, I think there's value there. I think we're recognizing the value of those more and more as time goes on. And but like Jesse said, you've got to take ownership. You've got to ask, hey, what can I do? You've got to challenge the status quo while you're there, and just absorb everything you can and try and leave it a better place than when you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. In short version, I'm just going to ditto what you both have said. I will, my disclaimer here is going to be do as I say, not as I do. I am a first generation agriculturalist, but also a first generation college student. I did not do any internships, so shame on me. I will say that if I could go back and redo only one thing during my college career, it would be that I would have taken internships. I don't want to say that it was because of the timing I was in college or my generation, so on and so forth. I don't want to blame it on anything other than ignorance, because I didn't take the time to look for them. I didn't take the time to ask the questions, and I really wish that I would have. And so I really appreciate you both really driving home the importance of asking questions, looking, discovering. In the time that I've worked within both 4-H and at the national level in youth development, I think it's really brought to light the fact that internships are a pathway to discovery, right? We not only learn about what fields we may be interested in or not interested in. I think it's equally important to recognize both sides of that, right? But also the culture of the environment you could potentially be working in, right? Paxton, you talked about the fact that you did both in-person, virtual, and a hybrid version of an internship. It looks like we are all three either in a spare bedroom or a home office. So, we're working remote. That might not be all our job entails. We are all luckily, we have that opportunity. There may be work environments where that's not an option and you do have to be in the office, or you may be fully remote. So I think, I want to gather your guys' opinions on the importance of culture, not just specifically to the environment that you're working in, but the people. Let's be candid. Not everybody is going to mesh well with everybody. We hope that we can always remain professional and understanding in the environments that we're working in. But I think it's important to understand, what type of people we work best with and what type of people we work best for. Not necessarily highlighting our superiors, but, our clients. I work for members all over the US and Canada, some into Australia. Some people may not like that idea. Some people may not like the idea of being on the phone all the time. What are your guys' thoughts on the importance of, through internship opportunities, focusing a little bit on the culture and finding the right fit for you guys? Do you guys have any thoughts on the importance of culture in the workplace?
So I think that, obviously we talked about the work environment. I won't go much more into detail on that other than, you've got to find what fits for you and where you're going to be happy. But beyond that, when we talk about people, I think it comes down to, common interests and common goals. If you work for an organization, really, I think the culture starts with what you do and what you believe in. And so if you can work for an organization that has, a mission or a vision that you really believe in, and you can get behind, a lot of times, if other employees have that same strategy of, hey, I want to work for something that gives me meaning beyond just a paycheck. And I hope that everybody out there has that and is able to find that. But if you can work in an organization or, with a group of people that have that common interest, that common goal, a lot of times the culture is there. And so I think, if you're looking at a company that you didn't get the chance to do an internship with, or an organization that you don't really have much of a connection with, start with looking at what the organization believes in the first place. You've got to be able to wake up every day and get excited about what you do and believe in what you do. And that's where the culture starts. And then from there, make phone calls, talk to people that have worked there in the past or people that work there currently, develop those connections. But at the end of the day, if you believe in what you're doing, that culture is going to be there. The foundation is going to be laid. And then, I think sometimes in college, we get this idea of what an ideal work environment looks like. you've got to have some humility there as well, and come in and realize that you're a new person on the block, and you've got to be able to absorb everything you can, learn from everyone. And there's a time to speak up and say, hey, this is something that I've noticed, and this is something I think I can add value in. There's also a time to sit down and say, hey, it's been done this way because they've realized that it's the most efficient this way, and I need to make sure that I'm learning that to the best of my ability, so that then I can add some value in that way as well. And so there's duality there. You've got to have some humility when you enter that workforce, but I truly believe that it all starts with just believing in what that organization does, and knowing that I can wake up every day and be proud of what I do. Jesse, what would you think on that?
I agree. I think that if you are somebody who is looking at a career and your main goal is, I'm going to do that because I'm going to make a lot of money, you're going to be really, really unhappy in life, and you're not going to last long at it, because you've really got to find your why. And the other thing that I think that's really important, and especially when you are in that younger age, is you think that, okay, well, I'm going to find my why, and it's going to be my why for the rest of my life. Your why is very fluid. Your why is allowed to change, right? What I did, when I first started working at Idaho Cattle Association, I probably had a little bit different of a why than I do now. But those experiences and the people and the relationships that has, it shaped me and changed that, and really navigated the vessel that is that why. But you've really got to dig deep and figure out, what do you love to do? Why do you like to do it? What makes you happy? What do you not enjoy doing? And what are you really passionate about? What causes are important to you? All of those questions, and you can write them down on a piece of paper, make a checklist, like make your pro con list, however you want to do it. But you've really got to figure out, what do I enjoy doing? What am I good at? What can I put out into the world and give my best and show up at my best every day? But you can figure out how to get paid at anything these days.
Yeah.
Like, don't go to a job just because you think, man, I'm gonna make a lot of money at that, so that's what I'm gonna do, because you're not going to be very happy. And the other thing too that I will say, because I think that this is more of a we've talked a little bit about remote workplaces. And it's something that now, when you're out of college, and I see this a lot through Of the West, is a lot of people right out of college think, well, I'm gonna go get a remote job. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's really, really important that you work in an office setting or office environment first, because that's where you learn really important relationships. You learn how to work with people. You learn how to bounce ideas off of one another. You learn how to work with people that maybe you don't enjoy being around, and you have to learn how to kind of, turn the other cheek, or, figure out how to work with people that don't see eye to eye on different things, or different personality types. And all of that is so very important. And I can tell you that for Of the West, so we are a company who we work remote. We have a couple other people who work for us. And any position that I hire, I wouldn't hire somebody who's never spent time in an office, just because that is where you learn those valuable skills of being able to show up on time and being able to work with different types of people. So if you are somebody who is in college and you're thinking, man, I want to get that remote job right out of college, I would encourage you to pump the brakes a little bit, and really take the time to pour that foundation of working in an office and in an environment where you're around others. Because I can also say, as somebody who's worked remote for almost 10 years now, it can be very lonely too. And I think that's something that, the grass is always greener on the other side, but all situations have their cons just as much as they have their pros. So you may not even have the personality type that thrives in a remote setting. And I know I'm getting a little bit of off topic with that, but as far as like culture goes and your why, I think that that's a really important consideration to also think about too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could have said either of your comments any better than you did. I really appreciate, Paxton. I appreciate you bringing up the importance of a mission and vision statement. Not all of us have ever worked for somebody that has been a part of the creation of those. So, right along with what you're saying, I think it's important, if you're not sure what direction you want to go, whether it's for your internship, whether it's for your career development, take a look at not only their mission and vision statement, but a lot of them will also have their core values listed. Not everybody, but just to your point, Paxton, if you don't align with those, and you don't have to align with all of them, right? But if you don't at least agree or value the same core values or the mission and vision statement of the organization, chances are it may not be for you, and that's okay. But that's why we put those out there as organizations, whether it is of the West, Corteva, American Galvy Association, whoever it may be. That's why we put those on our website, right? Because we want to attract those that follow the same passions as we do. They agree with the direction we want to take our organizations and the services that we want to provide our clients or our members. So I can appreciate that a lot. I am going to add, because you guys, you have your outline, I am going to add a question. And Jesse, don't come for me on this, but I really appreciate you bringing up the why and how flexible those are. So I'll add it to the end. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to think about that, because I know that is such a loaded question. But at the end, I want you guys to share your why. Why are you doing what you're doing now? Or maybe it's, why did you agree to be a part of this webinar? So I'm going to add that to the end. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think about that. But moving on, just a hair, we prepared to be in these positions, whether we knew this is where we were going to end up or not. Some of that looked like being a part of organizations like 4-H, FFA, so on and so forth. And I know that there's other organizations out there, so I apologize if those are the examples I keep using, but it's more than that. It's also about the time we spend in high school, the time we spend in college, and the exposure we get to the educational side of the industry. So can you guys elaborate a little bit, and I'll share mine at the end. Can you guys provide an example of a course that you might have taken, whether that was in high school, college, whatever, that really stuck out to you and has become one of the most helpful courses that you think you ever took in the positions that you serve now, and maybe you didn't think that it was going to be helpful when you took it? Jesse, we'll start with you.
Okay, this is a tough one, because technically I went to a liberal arts college. It was a really small college. And like I said earlier, there was no ag program. I was probably one of the only ag kids who was even there. And so none of my courses necessarily have anything to do with what I do now. But I will say, for me as a business owner, I had a business law class, and I also have an accounting minor. So I took a lot of accounting classes, and those things have helped me beyond measure, just because in order to have a strong business, you have to have a strong financial foundation. And without those courses, that is something, I didn't necessarily enjoy them at the time, but they have really stuck out and have really helped me where I am now. And even though I think one of the biggest lessons there is, a lot of the things that we don't like in life may actually help us the most. And so I think that there's a lot of value that can be found in sticking things out, even though you may in the short term not enjoy it, because in the long term, it's going to really, really benefit you.
Yeah, absolutely. Paxton, how about you? Any courses that stick out to you that you took that really played a role in your position with Corteva?
Yeah, there's one that I think of that, to be honest, I didn't really want to take it at the beginning, but it was just Introduction to Weed Science. And, going through that class with Dr. Smita at the University of Missouri was so beneficial, because I didn't have a ton of interest in plant sciences or even, that industry at the time. But going through that course, we dabbled a little bit in plant physiology, the way herbicides work, the chemistry behind them, and really just more importantly, the purpose in weed management. That's something that I fell in love with through that class. He had such a great and tactful way of teaching that, and, applying hands-on learning with classroom learning. And at the end, I walked away with much more knowledge, but more importantly, with an idea of, hey, this is kind of what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it completely changed what the rest of my college experience looked like. I had to tack a lot of classes on really quickly in plant sciences to do what I do. But, I think a big lesson there is, not everybody's going to have weed science that they're going to join in on and figure out what they want to do with. But I think those introductory classes, when you're early on in your college career, I would encourage you to take as many of those as you can, because, you have no idea what might come out of left field and really, strike an interest in you and decide, make you change what you want to do. And I think that's important, and it's something that I wish I probably would have taken even more introductory level classes at the beginning of my college career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys are both I don't know if I can say ditto anymore in this recording, but I'm going to say ditto again. Just to the sentiment of taking, sometimes it's the courses that we did not think we were going to enjoy, we didn't want, or maybe it's a course we didn't really think exist or didn't even know existed. Mine was actually during my grad program. I had to take it was either theories or principles of volunteer management, and I thought I had to take a whole semester about how to work with other people. But in the long run, I feel like that course, regardless of whether I am working with kids for the rest of my life, or I'm working in a different sector that's maybe not agriculture, at the end of the day, I've got to work with people. They may not necessarily be a volunteer by title, right? But through that course, really learned a lot about listening with the intent to understand and not the intent to reply. Probably one of my favorite phrases on the planet, one that I have to remind myself quite a bit. But it's through that course and understanding the importance of listening, you then, gain better insight into people's true interest, their true passions, and where they might fit your organization well. I don't own my own business. I'm not lucky enough like Jessie, and maybe someday she doesn't feel lucky. But it's you never know. Someday I might, and that's where that role comes into play, or that course comes into play, is being able to match people that have a very similar passion and drive for what I'm doing or the organization that I'm a part of, and maybe I'm also a volunteer, but just being able to kind of play matchmaker, like Jessie was talking about. I just, throwing the word volunteer out there, I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to work with volunteers, and here I am, only working with volunteers. Almost every event that I put on, almost every, position that I need filled to make my organization run is volunteer. So to both of your points, sometimes it's not what we thought we'd be doing, but it's what we do probably more often than anything in our current position. So appreciate you both kind of highlighting those courses that you took. So in an attempt to kind of start wrapping things up here a little bit, can you guys, and if you want to do it at the same time, because remember, I'm adding this question to what is your why? A, what is your why? But B, what is a piece of advice that you would give to young professionals, both in or outside of the ag industry, that may be catching this webinar, to set them up for success? What is a piece of advice that means a lot to you guys, that you would like to pass on, and what is your why?
Okay, I'll go first. My advice is going to be a little, I guess, unconventional, but it's the advice that I give everybody, and it's advice that I lead my life by. And I think it's important whether you want to do something in agriculture or not. And that is, you're never wrong to do the right thing. I can tell you in my over decades of experience in, having a career, there are, a lot of different situations and relationships that you'll have, and you're just never wrong to do the right thing. A lot of it is hard. And usually when it comes to, you have two decisions, there's an easy one and a hard one. 99% of the time, the hard one is probably the right one, right? It's the easy decisions. They don't come as often as we think they do. And so that's something that I tell myself that quote almost daily, because I get into a situation where, you have to make a difficult decision, or, you don't want to show up, or, whatever it is. But I think that you're never wrong to do the right thing. And then as far as my why, I am incredibly passionate about the agriculture and Western industries, and the next generation holds too much promise to not give them a chance to take the reins. And so I want to do anything in my power to continue to further the future of the ag and Western industries, which technically, if that's my why, I could go do anything. So why is it that I am here on my family's operation, and then also an entrepreneur? And part of that why is, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur, whether you are a rancher or a farmer or you have a small business. But I want to prove to my children that they can do anything that they set their minds to. And anything that they dream can be done. They can figure out a way to make that happen. And so that being part of my why, also, I am proving to them that it is possible to chase your dreams. And you can also just still chase your dreams in the middle of nowhere on your ranching operation. As I look out here, I get to look at our ranch and see what's going on. And so you can have the best of both worlds. You can still kind of live a double life, if you will. And I think that that's really important, just to prove that you can chase your dreams, and you will have to make sacrifices in life, but you also don't have to sacrifice your dreams, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. That's important for all of us to keep in mind. Paxton, how about you?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give is just make time for everything. And I know that sounds pretty bland, but if you're in college, if you're in high school, there are a lot of things coming at you in a lot of directions that want to take a little sliver of your time, and those add up. And I understand it's really, really tough sometimes to juggle classwork with all of those extracurriculars, and then you tack on an internship here and there on that, or maybe a side job, or maybe you're even going to be an intern at a livestock show. We're talking about Junior Gelbvieh Association; those are great internships, and they last 2 weeks. But when you tack on all those things, I understand it can be hard to juggle, but if you make time for as much of that as you possibly can, you'll find something that gets you excited, and you'll find something that you want to do. And that's something that we're really blessed to be able to find those opportunities with where we live and the industry that we're in. But if you make time for all those things, if you don't find what you want to do, you'll at least find some people you want to work with. And I think that that's equally as important, just finding those people so that you can have a good balance of, hey, I love what I do, and I also love the people that I work with, and find that cohesion as a team. But I think, when I think about my why of why I do what I do, I think it's because I believe in the industry and the challenge that we have. So, everybody talks about the fact that we have a growing population and we have shrinking acreage every single day in the United States and really abroad as well. And with that, we have to do everything that we possibly can to produce our food in a safe way, as efficiently as possible. And so I feel that, getting the chance to work with a company like Corteva has given me an opportunity to play a small piece in that. And I recognize it's a very small piece in that. And I think that that's humbling, though, to be able to do that, to be able to wake up every day and have a vision of, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing, because in the long run, agriculture has a growing challenge, and it takes everyone to do something, to do everything that they can in their power to be able to meet that challenge. And I feel that I'm able to do that with what I do. And then lastly, you mentioned, why did you take the time to join this webinar in the first place? And I think in my mind, when I think back to my time involved in youth organizations, my time in college, I gleaned a lot of information from panels like these, from people that have been in my shoes, people that have faced these challenges, and I could learn from sometimes their successes and sometimes their mistakes. And let's be real, we've all got both of those. But I gleaned a lot of information that helped me. And so, it's my hope that as I move forward in my career and, take on the next phases of my life, that I'm able to kind of give back in that way. And I think that these just are incredibly important. So with that, thank you for taking the time to put this on as well, because I have no doubt that someone out there is going to get something out of this that's going to be of value in their career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate all of that and appreciate your guys' time. I will be, polite, and I'll also give my why, since I challenged you guys last minute on that one. So to start, my piece of advice that I try to give every member of my organization and outside of it that I get the chance to come across. I've actually got it on a keychain on my keys. But it says, "Be where your feet are." And to me, that's a reminder both in and outside of my professional career. I don't know if it was always a hot topic. Maybe I'm just hearing about it within the last couple of years, but the importance of a work-life balance is incredibly important to me. And so I think whether I'm doing a webinar like this, whether I'm at an event with my juniors or putting on their board meeting or working on scholarships, I think it's important for all of us, especially in the beginning stages of your professional career. Maybe it's your first internship, but really being present with the situation, the environment, the people. You're going to gain a lot more insight from those experiences if you are truly present. So kind of like Paxton said, it's a simple statement, but I think it comes with a lot of power if you truly believe in what it's asking you to do. And maybe that's, like Jesse, you've got your family, you've got your ranch. Maybe that's doing chores. Be present during that time. In college, maybe that's grabbing a coffee with your advisor. Be present while those things are happening. Listen to what they've got to say, contribute to the conversation. I feel like you get so much more out of life itself if you can truly be aware of your surroundings, be present, and be a part of whatever is going on. You never want to look back and think, man, I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention, or there were opportunities there and I missed them because I was worried about what comes next. I was worried about the projects that I'm going to have to start next week. Like Paxton, you said, your plates are full as a college student. Our plates, let me tell you, kids, the load does not get any lighter after graduation. We'll tell you that much. But so to that point, I think it's important to really take a hold of the environment that you're in and be there not only for yourself but for others. And my why, it's a little unconventional, I guess. I don't know if you guys remember, and maybe I'm aging myself here, at least to the target audience, right? There was a commercial, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, and knowing my luck, it's going to be much older than that. But it had like Pink and a couple other celebrities in it. And it was, if you can see her, you can be her. And it talked about empowering women in the pursuit of their goals. And oddly enough, that really resonated with me because, again, I didn't grow up in this industry. I didn't realize that there was a place for me. And so for me, my why is, I hope that someday somebody out there is going to realize or recognize it. I have junior board members that don't even believe me when I say I didn't grow up in the industry. So I just hope that someday my story is going to resonate with somebody else that was in the same shoes as me, that really wanted nothing more than to be a part of this family that we've created within the agricultural and Western heritage in our culture. They want to be a part of it so bad. And so I'm hoping that someday somebody will see the work that I've put in and realize that it is possible. And that's both applicable to people who did grow up and did not grow up in the industry, but you got to go for it. You've got to put your neck out there. You've got to try new things, and you've got to be okay with the answer no, and you've got to be really good at being wrong. I've been wrong a lot the last 15 years. But that's where we grow the most, right? Is when we make those mistakes, but you have to humbly take the criticism. You have to humbly take the correct answers. So anyway, that's my why, is, just hoping that someday somebody will see my story, and not that I don't feel like my story is anything significant, but to somebody it may be, and that's why I continue to push and continue to try and grow. But with that, do you guys have anything else you would like to contribute? Before we get there, I just want to say thank you guys again for spending time with us. As we were just talking, our plates are full. They never seem to clear up any. So I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to shed some light on the importance of really honing in on your future as a young professional, and really laying down a strong foundation. So do you guys have anything you'd like to add before we close out the day?
The only other thing I'll add is just the importance of continuing to be a lifelong learner. You guys are, high school, college, whatever age you are. I will speak on behalf of all of us here when I can say that we still put ourselves in learning situations and learning opportunities. So you're not done learning when you get out of high school or you get out of college. You've still got to make time for that, because that is what's going to continue to further you into the future. So doing stuff like this, I'm really impressed with all of you guys who are watching this now, who are committed to that learning, but your commitment doesn't stop here. You guys have got to continue to do this type of stuff and just continue to put yourselves in rooms where you are the dumbest one in the room and you can learn the most. And that is what's really going to push you into the future. So thank you guys so much for listening and for inviting me today. It's really been an honor.
Absolutely, Jesse. We were such a pleasure to have you. Paxton, do you have any closing notes or comments?
Not a lot. Just echo what Jesse said there. Your education is one thing, and whether that be formal education or also, education outside of a formal environment as well. But that's the one thing they can't take away from you at any point in your life is what you've learned and the people you've met through that. And so just soak it in and enjoy it, and also just seek trusted mentors for guidance to help you there. And I have no doubt that that's a pretty solid recipe for success. So Jake, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I feel like I've learned some stuff out of this as well. So it's always good to do these.
Yeah, absolutely, Paxton. Appreciate your guys' time today. So again, we appreciate you guys for jumping on and taking a listen. I think if you have listened to any part of this, I think you have taken the first step in the right direction. Or maybe it's not the first step, but you were, to these guys' point, never stop learning, never stop growing. And here we are, 2023, and you can see that the opportunity to learn and grow doesn't always have to be in a classroom. You could be listening to this, in your hotel room, whatever, hopefully not during class, but the idea is that you can learn from anywhere. You just have to take the initiative. So hope that you guys continue to do that and put your best foot forward. And if there's anything, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to go ahead and speak for everybody here on the panel, but if there's anything that we can do for you as you take that next step in your leadership journey, your professional development, whether that's answering questions, giving advice that we haven't maybe shared here. If you have any specific questions, feel free to look us up, find a way to get connected to us, and we'd be more than happy to dive deeper into what we can do to help you guys out. But with that, thank you guys so much again for joining us and spending some time, and we hope to see you down the road.